Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Pro Car Studio. My name is Rudy, and today we're going to be installing a Koyo Radiator on our 10th Gen Civic Si. So we're hoping this installation should give us some good performance at the track, and just being a Koyo Radiator, we're sure it's going to come through for that. So the installation should be pretty straightforward. So again, this is going to be a drop-in fitment for this car, but for more information on some of the specifics, check out our website, www.procivic.com. But in any case, let's go ahead and get started and go ahead and install this Koyo Racing radiator. So first step is we're going to take off this beam reinforcement. Consists of a 14 millimeter and a 17 millimeter bolt on either side. Keep in mind the 14 millimeter bolt will kind of stay in place and it'll come off with the beam. Next, we're going to remove this air box using a 10 millimeter socket to take off the two bolts. Once you have the two bolts removed, go ahead and pull down on the air box and it'll release the two rubber grommets up, and carefully remove it from the car. Now we'll go ahead and drain the radiator by releasing this valve. I'm going to use a set of pliers to make the job a little bit easier. Next step, after starting the drain of the coolant, we'll go ahead and remove the engine coolant temperature sensor. It's right in this area. It's a brass sensor. You'll use a 17 millimeter wrench. Unclip the connector, use your wrench to unscrew it and take it right off. Next up, we're going to remove the upper bumper support. Consists of a few 10 and 12 millimeter bolts, some extra hardware for our oil cooler core, and some push clips on either end. Next up, we'll go ahead and remove the stock airbox. Starting off with the clamp, we'll use a Phillips head screwdriver. The harness, we'll just unclip the harness connector going to the MAF sensor and a little clip retaining it to the airbox. And then there's two 10 millimeter bolts kind of towards the ECU. You'll need an extension and a 10 millimeter socket to get those off. Now we'll go ahead and remove the upper radiator support. On either side, you'll find three 12 millimeter hex head bolts. We'll remove those three bolts, and then there's going to be a harness and coolant hose that we'll also need to disconnect as well. Next up, we'll remove the upper and lower radiator hoses. This overflow hose consisting of a clamp, a couple hold down clips. There's also a heater hose down below, which is held down with a 10 millimeter bolt, and the lower radiator hose, which you'll need to release similar to one of these tension clamps. So for these two connectors, the first one is pretty simple. You just press a clip on the top, pull it out, come right off. This was a little bit trickier. There's a release tab on this side of the connector. Press in on that, pull up on this tab, and you'll be able to disconnect it. We'll finish off by undoing the 10 millimeter bolt holding the heater hose and then the lower radiator hose. So now that the radiator is almost ready to come off, we'll unbolt the AC condenser off of the radiator using the 10 millimeter socket. Once you have all the hoses and bolts undone, you should be able to carefully pull the radiator out. One thing to note, having removed this, you'll be able to see here, there's a clip that goes here. You just release that tab, take it off, and also it helps to remove the drain valve. Completely take that off, it'll clear the charge piping, making it easy to pull out. Now that we went ahead and removed the radiator, we could go ahead and remove the fan to put it on the new radiator. We're gonna remove 4 10mm bolts, take those off and put it on the new assembly. Also make sure to remove these rubber grommets on the bottom. So now we'll go ahead and throw the OEM fan back on here. Double check the drain plug, anything like that, to make sure everything's properly tightened down. And we'll finish this off by installing the rubber grommets on the bottom. Now that the radiator is prepped, we'll go ahead and drop it in, carefully making sure not to damage anything. Once you drop it in, check to make sure that rubber grommets are properly seated, holding the radiator in place. Now we'll go ahead and bolt on the AC condenser onto the radiator. Once you have all the bolts in place, go ahead and finish tightening them up. Next, we'll go ahead and start connecting the hoses. I have a zip tie here that was holding the heater hose in place. Take that off, reconnect the bracket and bolt holding the heater hose in place, and any clips or connectors that are in the area. So now that we have the lower radiator hose connected, the heater hose bracket and a little clip holding a harness, we'll move up to the top. We'll connect the upper radiator hose, one of the coolant overflow hoses, and a harness or connector for the radiator fan. Now we'll go ahead and bolt the upper radiator support in place using the 3 12mm hex head bolts and making sure to connect all the harnesses, clips, and hoses that were attached to it. And so that'll pretty much wrap it up for the installation. Now, you do want to make sure that there's no leaks. So at this point, you know, we still have the car kind of torn down. You want to fill it up with coolant, start it up, go through the whole bleeding process, for which we'll have steps down below. But in any case, the installation was pretty straightforward. It just takes a little bit of time to get everything off, being that it's so compact. But, you know, we're eager to see how the Koyo Radiator performs on the track. Given the build quality and just the size of the radiator, we're sure it'll do really well. But at this point, we'll just go ahead and fill it up, go through the bleeding process, make sure there's no leaks, and put everything back together. So all in all, should take maybe about 3 to 6 hours depending on your experience. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more updates. Once again, my name is Rudy from Pro Car Studio, and I'll see you next time.